Sofia Martinez balanced 5 plates on her left arm while navigating through the crowded dining room of Romano's, an upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Chicago's financial district. At 28, she had been serving tables for 3 years, her movements fluid and practiced as she delivered perfectly plated ossobuco and risotto to businessmen discussing million-dollar deals. Her uniform was pristine, her smile professional, and to everyone around her, she appeared to be exactly what she seemed: a dedicated server working to make ends meet in an expensive city. What none of the customers knew was that Sofia held a doctorate in international relations from Columbia University and spoke 6 languages fluently. Every evening after her restaurant shift ended, she retreated to her small studio apartment where she worked as a freelance translator for international organizations, diplomatic missions, and multinational corporations. Her linguistic skills encompassed English, Spanish, French, Italian, German, and Mandarin Chinese, each language representing years of dedicated study and cultural immersion. The contrast between her 2 worlds was stark and deliberate. During the day, she was invisible to the wealthy patrons who frequented Romano's. They saw only a server, someone to take their orders and clear their plates. At night, she became someone entirely different. A sophisticated professional whose translations helped facilitate international business deals, diplomatic communications, and cultural exchanges worth millions of dollars. Sofia's decision to work as a server wasn't born from necessity, but from strategy. The restaurant job provided her with steady income while allowing her the flexibility to pursue her translation work. More importantly, it allowed her to observe the wealthy and powerful from close range, studying their behavior, their priorities, and their weaknesses. She had learned more about human nature serving tables than she ever had in graduate school. The irony wasn't lost on her that she often translated documents for companies whose executives dined at Romano's, completely unaware that their server was the same person who had helped negotiate their international contracts. Sofia found a certain satisfaction in this hidden identity, enjoying the secret knowledge that she was far more educated and worldly than anyone in the restaurant suspected. Sofia's journey to becoming a polyglot had begun in childhood when her grandmother, a refugee from the Spanish Civil War, insisted that language was the key to survival and success in any country. Her grandmother spoke Spanish, French, and Catalan, switching between them depending on her mood and the story she was telling. This early exposure to multiple languages had awakened something in Sofia's mind, an almost supernatural ability to absorb linguistic patterns and cultural nuances. By high school, Sofia was already fluent in Spanish and English, and had begun studying French with an intensity that surprised her teachers. She didn't just memorize vocabulary and grammar rules. She immersed herself completely in each language's culture, reading literature, watching films, and seeking out native speakers with whom she could practice. Her approach was thorough and methodical, treating each new language as a complete world to be explored and understood. In college, she added Italian and German to her repertoire, spending summers abroad to perfect her pronunciation and cultural understanding. Her professors were amazed by her ability to not just speak these languages, but to think in them, switching seamlessly between different linguistic and cultural frameworks. She could discuss philosophy in German, debate politics in French, and negotiate business deals in Italian with equal fluency and cultural awareness. The addition of Mandarin Chinese during graduate school had been her greatest challenge and her greatest triumph. The tonal nature of the language and the complexity of its writing system required her to completely reorganize her approach to learning. She spent 2 years in Beijing, not just studying the language, but living it, thinking in Chinese characters and dreaming in Mandarin tones. When she returned to the United States, she was not just fluent but culturally literate in ways that few non-native speakers ever achieved. Sofia's linguistic abilities went beyond mere communication. She could detect regional accents, understand cultural subtleties, and even identify social class markers in each of her languages. This skill made her an invaluable translator, able to convey not just words, but cultural context and emotional nuance in her work. Each night after finishing her restaurant shift, Sofia transformed from a server into a highly sought-after translator, working with some of the world's most prestigious organizations. Her client list included the United Nations, international law firms, Fortune 500 companies, and diplomatic missions. She operated under the professional name S.M. Rodriguez, maintaining strict confidentiality about her dual identity, while building a reputation for accuracy, cultural sensitivity, and absolute discretion. Her translation work covered an enormous range of subjects: international trade agreements, diplomatic correspondence, technical manuals for multinational corporations, and confidential documents that could affect global markets. Sofia had translated merger documents for companies worth billions, diplomatic cables between nations, and research papers that advanced international understanding in fields ranging from medicine to environmental science. The intellectual challenge of her translation work was what truly energized Sofia. Each project required her to become an expert in new fields, learning specialized terminology and understanding complex concepts well enough to convey them accurately across linguistic and cultural boundaries. She had translated documents about quantum physics research, international banking regulations, pharmaceutical patents, and environmental treaties, becoming a specialist in multiple fields through the breadth of her work. Sofia's clients valued her not just for her linguistic skills, but for her cultural intelligence. She understood the subtle differences between how Germans and Americans approached business negotiations, how Chinese executives communicated respect and hierarchy, and how French diplomats used language to convey multiple layers of meaning. This cultural fluency made her translations more than accurate. They were effective, helping her clients achieve their goals across cultural divides. Working under a pseudonym allowed Sofia to maintain her privacy while building a professional reputation. Her clients knew SM Rodriguez as a brilliant translator who delivered flawless work on impossible deadlines, but they had no idea that this linguistic genius spent her days serving tables in a Chicago restaurant. The anonymity protected her but also isolated her, creating a loneliness that came from living two completely separate lives. Vincent Blackwood was a name whispered with equal parts fear and respect throughout Chicago's business community. At 45, he controlled a global empire worth $15 billion, with interests spanning technology, manufacturing, real estate, and international finance. His reputation for ruthlessness in business was legendary. Competitors spoke of being crushed by his strategic brilliance, while former employees described a demanding perfectionist who accepted nothing less than absolute excellence from everyone in his organization. Blackwood's rise to power had been meteoric and merciless. Starting with a small technology company inherited from his father, he had systematically acquired, destroyed, or absorbed every competitor in his path. His business philosophy was simple: dominance through superior intelligence, resources, and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. Those who crossed him found themselves not just defeated, but utterly ruined, their businesses dismantled, and their reputations destroyed. The financial press portrayed Blackwood as a brilliant but dangerous figure, someone whose business acumen was matched only by his capacity for strategic destruction. His rare public appearances were analyzed for clues about his next moves, and his brief statements could move markets and destroy competitors' stock prices. He was known for his photographic memory, his ability to speak multiple languages, and his talent for identifying weaknesses in both people and organizations. Despite his wealth and power, Blackwood remained largely mysterious to the public. He avoided social events, rarely gave interviews, and maintained his privacy through a combination of legal threats and strategic intimidation. Those who worked for him described a man who was brilliant but emotionally detached, someone who viewed human relationships as strategic assets rather than sources of connection or warmth. What made Blackwood particularly feared was his reputation for uncovering secrets and using them as weapons. He employed teams of investigators, analysts, and intelligence specialists who could uncover information about anyone who interested him. Competitors, employees, and potential partners all knew that doing business with Blackwood meant having every aspect of their lives scrutinized and potentially weaponized against them. For 6 months, Vincent Blackwood had been a regular customer at Romano's, always requesting the same corner table that provided clear sightlines to the entire restaurant while keeping his back to the wall. He arrived every Tuesday and Thursday at exactly 7:30 p.m., ordered the same meal, grilled branzino with a side of roasted vegetables, and conducted business meetings that everyone in the restaurant pretended not to notice but secretly tried to overhear. Sofia had served Blackwood numerous times, approaching his table with the same professional demeanor she showed all customers, while internally marveling at the irony of the situation. Here was one of the most powerful men in the world, someone whose business decisions affected millions of people, and she was bringing him bread and taking his order as if he were any other customer. He treated her with polite indifference, never acknowledging her beyond the minimal interaction required for service. During his dinners, Sofia observed Blackwood's behavior with the analytical eye she had developed through her linguistic training. She noticed how he switched between languages during phone calls: English for American business partners, Mandarin for Asian clients, and German for European contacts. His fluency impressed her, though she detected slight accents and occasional grammatical imprecisions that suggested his language skills, while advanced, were not quite native level. Blackwood's dining companions were a rotating cast of executives, politicians, lawyers, and international figures whose faces Sofia recognized from financial news and diplomatic reporting. She served these powerful individuals while listening to fragments of conversations about merger deals, international trade policies, and political strategies that would affect global markets. The intelligence she gathered could have been valuable to competitors or journalists, but Sofia maintained strict professional neutrality. What intrigued Sofia most about Blackwood was his obvious intelligence and strategic thinking, qualities she recognized because she possessed them herself. She could see him analyzing every person in the restaurant, cataloging information, and calculating advantages. He was clearly someone who missed very little, which made her wonder if he had noticed anything unusual about her beyond her role as his server. Unknown to Sofia, Vincent Blackwood had indeed noticed something unusual about his server. His success in business had been built partly on his ability to read people, to notice details that others missed, and to identify individuals who were more than they appeared to be. During his regular dinners at Romano's, he had been conducting his own subtle analysis of the restaurant staff, and Sofia had captured his attention in ways she never suspected. Blackwood had noticed Sofia's posture, too confident and elegant for someone whose life centered around restaurant service. He observed her vocabulary during their brief interactions, noting word choices and grammatical structures that suggested education far beyond what her job would typically require. Most telling of all, he had caught her unconscious reactions to conversations in foreign languages at nearby tables. The slight tilt of her head when German executives discussed a merger, the barely perceptible smile when French diplomats made a cultural reference. His security team, which discreetly observed all his business dinners, had provided him with basic information about the restaurant staff. Sofia Martinez appeared unremarkable on paper. No criminal record, no obvious connections to competitors or intelligence services, steady employment history at Romano's. But Blackwood's instincts told him there was more to discover about this particular server, who seemed almost too perfect in her professional invisibility. Blackwood had built his empire by identifying overlooked talent and hidden assets. He had a gift for recognizing intelligence and capability that others missed, and his success often came from recruiting people whose potential had been underestimated by previous employers. Sofia represented a puzzle that intrigued him. Clearly intelligent, obviously educated, but choosing to work in a service position that seemed far beneath her capabilities. The mystery deepened when Blackwood's research team conducted a more thorough investigation into Sofia's background. They discovered her doctorate from Columbia, her academic excellence, and fragments of information suggesting involvement in international work. However, they could not find any evidence of her current professional activities beyond her restaurant job, which suggested either career disappointment or deliberate misdirection. During one of his regular dinners, Blackwood decided to test his theory about Sofia's hidden capabilities. He had arranged a meeting with a potential business partner from Beijing, conducting their conversation entirely in Mandarin Chinese, while carefully observing Sofia's reactions as she served their table. He watched for any sign that she understood their discussion of a complex technology acquisition deal that would reshape the Asian market. Sofia maintained perfect professional composure as she served their meal, but Blackwood's trained eye caught micro-expressions that confirmed his suspicions. When he mentioned specific technical terms in Mandarin, she showed the slightest recognition. When his Chinese colleague made a joke using a cultural reference that only someone deeply familiar with Chinese culture would understand, Sofia's mouth curved in the beginning of a smile before she caught herself. The test continued throughout the evening as Blackwood deliberately incorporated phrases and concepts that would be meaningless to someone who knew only restaurant Mandarin, but would resonate with someone who truly understood Chinese business culture. Sofia's unconscious reactions confirmed what he had suspected. She was not just casually familiar with the language, but was deeply fluent and culturally literate. Emboldened by these observations, Blackwood decided to push further. As Sofia was clearing their dessert plates, he switched to rapid technical German while discussing patent law with his Chinese colleague, creating a deliberately confusing linguistic situation that would test anyone's ability to follow complex multilingual conversation. Again, Sofia's subtle reactions indicated comprehension far beyond what any ordinary server should possess. By the end of the evening, Blackwood was certain that Sofia was hiding significant intellectual capabilities. His years of experience reading people and identifying hidden assets had rarely led him wrong, and every instinct told him that this server possessed skills that could be valuable to his organization. The question was how to uncover the full extent of her abilities without revealing his own awareness of her deception. Following his linguistic test, Blackwood authorized a comprehensive investigation into Sofia Martinez that went far beyond standard background checks. His security team employed the same techniques used to investigate major acquisition targets or potential competitors, analyzing everything from her financial records to her digital footprint. What they discovered confirmed his suspicions while raising new questions about her motivations and loyalties. The investigation revealed Sofia's extraordinary academic record at Columbia University, including a doctoral dissertation on international diplomatic communication that had received acclaim from professors and peer reviewers. Her transcripts showed perfect grades in advanced language courses and international relations seminars, painting a picture of exceptional intellectual capability and dedication to her studies. More intriguingly, the financial analysis revealed income streams that couldn't be explained by her restaurant work alone. Bank deposits suggested consulting or freelance work that generated substantial revenue, but the sources of this income were carefully obscured through multiple business entities and professional services agreements. Someone had taken considerable care to hide the true nature and scope of Sofia's professional activities. Digital forensics provided additional clues about Sofia's hidden life. Her online presence was minimal under her own name, but sophisticated data analysis revealed connections to professional translation services, international business forums, and academic conferences related to linguistic and diplomatic work. The evidence pointed to someone who was actively working in high-level international communication, while maintaining complete separation from her public identity. Most interesting of all was what the investigation couldn't uncover. Despite employing some of the best private investigators and data analysts money could buy, Blackwood's team could not identify Sofia's current clients or the specific nature of her professional work. This level of operational security impressed Blackwood, suggesting either natural instincts for discretion or training in protecting sensitive information. Blackwood's investigation had confirmed that Sofia Martinez possessed exactly the kind of rare talent his organization needed for its expanding international operations. His global business empire required sophisticated linguistic and cultural expertise to navigate complex negotiations, diplomatic relationships, and cross-cultural business environments. Sofia's combination of academic credentials, practical experience, and proven discretion made her potentially invaluable to his strategic objectives. The challenge was how to approach someone who had clearly chosen to hide her capabilities for reasons that remained unclear. Blackwood's usual recruitment methods involved direct offers backed by overwhelming financial incentives, but Sofia's situation suggested that money alone might not be sufficient motivation. She had obviously chosen her current path deliberately, and changing her mind would require understanding her deeper motivations and concerns. Blackwood's business philosophy emphasized the importance of acquiring the best talent before competitors recognized its value. Sofia represented an opportunity to gain a significant strategic advantage in international markets, but only if he could convince her to abandon her hidden identity and work openly for his organization. The recruitment would need to be handled with unusual delicacy and strategic intelligence. The timing of his approach was crucial. If Sofia became aware that her cover had been blown before he could make his offer, she might disappear entirely, taking her valuable skills to a competitor or returning to the shadows of freelance work. Blackwood needed to demonstrate his knowledge of her capabilities while simultaneously showing respect for her intelligence and the sophistication of her current arrangement. Blackwood decided that his approach would need to be both a recruitment offer and a test of Sofia's character and judgment. He would reveal his knowledge of her hidden professional life while presenting an opportunity that would challenge her intellectually and professionally. Her response would tell him not just whether she might be willing to work for him, but whether she possessed the strategic thinking and personal integrity that his organization required. Block 10. The preparation. Blackwood spent several days planning his approach to Sofia, treating it with the same strategic intensity he brought to major business negotiations. He researched her academic work, studying her doctoral dissertation, and published papers to understand her intellectual interests and professional philosophy. He wanted to demonstrate that his interest in her was based on genuine appreciation for her capabilities, not just opportunistic recognition of her potential value. The conversation would need to take place in a setting that provided privacy while maintaining Sofia's comfort and sense of security. Blackwood decided to extend his usual dinner at Romano's, waiting until the restaurant was nearly empty before making his move. This would allow them to speak freely while keeping Sofia in familiar territory, where she felt confident and in control. Blackwood also prepared for the possibility that Sofia might reject his offer or attempt to deny her hidden professional activities. He had his investigators compile a comprehensive dossier of evidence about her linguistic abilities and international work, but he planned to reveal this information carefully, using it to demonstrate his knowledge rather than to threaten or intimidate her. The offer itself needed to be compelling enough to overcome Sofia's obvious preference for anonymity, and Blackwood prepared to discuss opportunities that would utilize her unique skills in ways that her current freelance work could not match. Access to international leaders, involvement in major diplomatic and business negotiations, and the chance to influence global events through her linguistic and cultural expertise. Most importantly, Blackwood needed to convey that he understood and respected the sophistication of Sofia's current operation. He would not treat her as a server who had accidentally been discovered to have other skills, but as a professional who had made strategic choices about how to use her talents. His approach would need to acknowledge her intelligence while presenting opportunities that were genuinely superior to her current situation. Block 11. The confrontation. On a quiet Thursday evening, after the last dinner customers had departed and the restaurant staff was completing their closing duties, Blackwood remained at his usual corner table. Sofia approached to inform him that the kitchen was closing, expecting him to settle his bill and leave as he always did. Instead, he looked directly at her with an intensity that immediately conveyed that something fundamental had changed in their relationship. Blackwood's opening words were carefully chosen to demonstrate his knowledge while maintaining respect for Sofia's intelligence. He spoke in fluent Mandarin, commenting on the complexity of the technology acquisition deal he had discussed at her table the previous week, making it clear that he knew she had understood every word of that supposedly private conversation. Sofia's reaction was everything Blackwood had hoped to observe. Rather than denying his implications or attempting to maintain her cover, she met his gaze directly and responded in equally fluent Mandarin, acknowledging his awareness of her capabilities while making it clear that she was not intimidated by his knowledge. Her composure under pressure impressed him even more than her linguistic skills. The conversation that followed was conducted in a mixture of languages, with Blackwood and Sofia switching between English, Mandarin, German, and Italian as they tested each other's fluency and cultural knowledge. What began as a confrontation evolved into a sophisticated intellectual duel, with each participant demonstrating their capabilities while trying to understand the other's motivations and strategic thinking. Sofia's responses revealed not just linguistic brilliance, but strategic intelligence that matched Blackwood's own. She understood that he was evaluating her for some purpose beyond mere curiosity, and she was conducting her own assessment of his character and intentions. The conversation was simultaneously a recruitment interview and a negotiation between two highly intelligent individuals who recognized each other as worthy opponents or potential allies. Block 12. The life-changing question. After 20 minutes of sophisticated linguistic sparring, Blackwood posed the question that would change Sofia's life forever. He asked, in perfect Italian, whether she was satisfied using her extraordinary talents to remain invisible, or whether she was ready to help shape the global conversations that would define the next decade of international relations and economic development. The question hit Sofia with unexpected force because it addressed the central frustration of her hidden professional life. Despite her success as a freelance translator, she often felt disconnected from the ultimate impact of her work, translating important documents without being able to influence the decisions they informed. Blackwood was offering her the chance to move from the shadows into positions where her linguistic and cultural expertise could directly affect major international developments. Blackwood outlined his vision for Sofia's role in his organization: leading international negotiations, serving as his personal representative in sensitive diplomatic situations, and building cultural bridges that would facilitate business relationships across traditional barriers. He described opportunities to work with world leaders, influence policy decisions, and use her linguistic abilities to advance causes she believed in, rather than simply serving whoever could pay her fees. The offer included not just professional opportunities but personal recognition and intellectual challenge that Sofia's hidden career could never provide. Blackwood spoke about the isolation that came from hiding one's true capabilities and the satisfaction that came from using one's talents openly and to their fullest extent. He understood, perhaps better than Sofia herself, the cost of maintaining her dual identity. Sofia realized that Blackwood's question forced her to confront choices she had been avoiding about her future and the ultimate purpose of her extraordinary abilities. She had built a successful but limited professional life based on anonymity and security, but his offer represented a chance to achieve impact and recognition that matched her capabilities. The decision would require her to abandon the safety of her hidden identity and accept the risks that came with operating at the highest levels of international business and diplomacy. Block 13. The Decision and New Beginning. Sofia's response to Blackwood's offer came not in words, but in her willingness to continue the conversation beyond the restaurant's closing time. She agreed to meet him the following day at his office, acknowledging that her hidden career had reached its natural limits, and that she was ready to consider opportunities that would utilize her full capabilities. Her decision represented not just a career change, but a fundamental shift in how she viewed herself and her place in the world. The transition from server to international consultant happened with startling speed. Within a week, Sofia had given notice at Romano's and begun working directly for Blackwood's organization, handling sensitive communications with government officials, business leaders, and diplomatic representatives across 6 continents. Her first assignment involved translating and culturally adapting a complex trade agreement between American and Chinese corporations, work that required exactly the kind of linguistic precision and cultural intelligence she had developed over years of hidden professional practice. Blackwood's assessment of Sofia's potential proved accurate almost immediately. Her ability to navigate complex cultural dynamics and communicate subtle meanings across linguistic barriers made her invaluable in international negotiations that had previously stalled due to miscommunication and cultural misunderstandings. Within months, she was representing Blackwood's interests in meetings with foreign ministers, central bank governors, and multinational corporate executives. The professional recognition that came with her new role fulfilled Sofia in ways she had never expected. After years of hiding her capabilities, she found deep satisfaction in being acknowledged for her intelligence and expertise. Her linguistic skills were no longer a secret talent to be concealed, but a professional asset that opened doors and created opportunities for meaningful impact on global affairs. Sofia's story became known within Blackwood's organization as an example of the extraordinary talent that could be found in unexpected places. Her journey from hidden translator to international diplomatic consultant inspired other employees to look beyond surface appearances and recognize that exceptional abilities could be found in individuals who had chosen unconventional paths to success. The relationship between Sofia and Blackwood evolved from employer and employee to strategic partners, who shared a commitment to excellence and a talent for identifying opportunities that others missed. Her linguistic abilities and cultural intelligence complemented his business acumen and strategic vision, creating a partnership that enhanced both of their capabilities and expanded their influence in international affairs. Thank you for joining us for this inspiring story about hidden talents, strategic thinking, and the courage to embrace new opportunities that match our true capabilities. Sofia's journey from invisible server to international consultant reminds us that extraordinary abilities can be found in the most unexpected places, waiting for the right moment and the right recognition to flourish. We'd love to hear from our viewers around the world. Please share in the comments which country you're watching from, and tell us about any hidden talents or secret skills you've developed. Your stories from different cultures and backgrounds help us understand how talent and opportunity intersect in fascinating ways across the globe.